In this video I will go over the planning, itinerary and details of the tour in Fuerteventura. We will go briefly through the entire route and then I will provide some general tips and advice for the trail. The trail is around 160 kilometers long. The starting point is Morojable in the south and the end point is Coralejo in the north. For the flight I put my backpack into 2 trash bags for protection and checked it in as luggage. If you don't have a tent it could also work with just carry-on luggage, but I didn't want to risk it due to the tent poles. Upon arrival on the island I took a bus to Morojable. There is a direct bus from the airport, but it might be faster if you first take line 3 to Puerto del Rosario and from there take line 1 to Morojable. In Morojable I stayed in a small room and then started my hike the next morning. Since it is very difficult to find gas cartridges with screw caps on the island, I opted for an alcohol stove. I bought the alcohol in a ferreteria/hardware store in Morojable and refilled it into my own container. I walked about 30 kilometers per day and it was sometimes necessary to carry about 4 to 5 liters of water. Good basic fitness is required for 5 days, otherwise you can also easily extend the tour by 1 or 2 days. The route occasionally follows the GR131, but I have changed it and now it leads through some much more beautiful parts of the island. However, it is also more remote, there are sometimes no accommodations and staying in a tent or bivouac is necessary, but believe me, it's totally worth it. On day 1 I started in Morojable. I then went over this beautiful mountain pass with a great view down to Cofete. In Cofete there's a small restaurant where I refilled my water. Then the trail leads for hours along this unbelievably beautiful beach and afterwards I entered the desert. Here I followed the GR131 until I set up my camp near the beach around here. The next day I walked along the beach to La Pared, where there is also a small supermarket. Then I followed the GR towards Cardón, also here is a supermarket. From there I continued and camped just before Pájara. There would be also a possible camp spot up here. Further down there is also a shelter, but I finally camped somewhere over here, which was not really ideal and maybe you will be able to find something better. On day 3 I went to Pájara, where supermarkets and cafes are available. After Toto there's another shelter. The trail continues over the mountain to Arco de Penitas. If you want to save energy you can also skip that part and continue directly towards Betancuria. From there the route continues along the ridge to Valle de Santa Inés, where I bought water again. It continues to Llanos de la Concepción, from where I left the GR131 and set up my camp on this hill up here, already moving closer towards the coast. On day 4 the route continues beautifully towards the coast and then just as beautiful along the lonely and impressive cliffs. In Puertito de los Molinos I had lunch and refilled my water supplies. There are only 2 small restaurants but no supermarket. From there I continued the remote, lonely and breathtaking hike until I arrived at my next campsite, which was this sandy beach. Here I encountered the first surfers, but all of them slept in their camping vans, so again I had the beach all to myself. On day 5 I continued along the coast past really nice beaches to El Cotillo. There are cafes and supermarkets there and the trail continues inland towards Lajares, over the impressive volcano Calderón Hondo and finally on to Coralejo, where I booked a hotel room via booking.com. The next day I took a bus from Coralejo to Puerto de Rosario and another day later I went from there to the airport and back to Austria. Note, I was traveling in early April. If you plan to go in the wintertime, you should definitely check in advance whether the restaurants and supermarkets are open. Regarding the equipment, I will not go through every item, but just a few of the most important ones. For hiking I wore board shorts from Revolution Race. The sun hoodie, which has proven very effective, is from Fjellraven. In combination with a cap, this offers all-round sun protection. Shoes were my barefoot shoes. They are very good, although the grippy sole is not really necessary on this hike, and shoes with a flatter sole would be even better suited for this one. Additional clothing included a fleece, a change of underwear, change of socks, a merino shirt and a thin, long underwear for sleeping. The The big four were a backpack from CPAX, the tent was the Nemo Hornet Osmo for one person, the quilt was a down quilt from Lightway, the sleeping pad was my Tamarest Neo Air X Lite Next. For cooking, a light alcohol stove and a titanium pot. Electronics, 2 power banks, one 10,000 and one 20,000 mAh, GoPro and DJI Mini 3, including separate batteries, a headlamp, cables and a fast charger for quick charging in restaurants, a lightweight towel, and very important, a shovel. Anyone who camps in the wild must have a shovel with them to bury their number 2 business properly. For dinner I brought along those outdoor meals, and my breakfast consisted of instant coffee and a protein bar. Additionally, I had another one of those bars per day as a snack, and the rest I got from supermarkets and restaurants. I was thrilled with the tour and really enjoyed it a lot. Very remote, beautiful landscapes, not at all busy. In fact, in my 5 days of hiking I only met one other hiker. As I mentioned, it is much more beautiful than the GR131, but also further away from villages, supermarkets and possible accommodations. I will link the video of the tour up here. I hope that was helpful and I see you in the next one.